Hello, my name is Dr. Pamela West, and I am excited about taking you on a journey with me to explore some of the unsung Black history of my hometown, Savannah, Georgia. We have some very special places to visit, along with some very special people to meet. I hope this journey will enlighten you to explore some of the rich African heritage of this beautiful city, Savannah, Georgia. Come, let's go. The first stop of our journey takes us to the Montmollin building that is located at 21 Barnett Street. Less than 200 years ago, slaves were trapped within the walls of this building. This is where they awaited the dreadful reality of being bought and sold as slaves in the United States. The building sits right in the heart of Savannah's city market. The building is of historical importance because of its use between the 1850s until December 1864, when it was used to hold, buy, and sell slaves in the slave market. It was owned by John S. Montmollin, and the third floor was rented out to Alexander Bryan until Bryan later ended up owning the building. Both were known for being largely involved in slave trade throughout the city of Savannah. This building is particularly important because it continued to host and sell slaves even after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by President Abraham Lincoln. Montmollin's building only became slave-free when Sherman's march to the sea put an end to it by physical force and eventually turned it into a freed slave school. Sadly, today the building is still intact, but without any commemoration to the slave trade or the slave school history. The city of Savannah and the Georgia Historical Society dedicated a historical marker about the Montmollin building and Bryan School on April 10, 2024. It is currently a pet store that people are free to walk through without any recognition of the tragedy that took place within its walls. The next stop of our journey takes us to Nicholsonboro Baptist Church. The Nicholsonboro community grew out of the turmoil, chaos, and unrest during the last year of the Civil War and the first years of Reconstruction. Two early pastors were Alexander Harris, who served with the Confederate Army, and Daniel Wright. It was General W.T. Sherman's Special Field Order No. 15 that reserved the Sea Islands from Charleston southward and abandoned rice fields for 30 miles inland for free men in January 1865. During the next 2 years, the officially appointed agent but self-proclaimed governor, Tunis G. Campbell, ruled these lands from his island kingdom on St. Catherine. In 1868, when ownership of the islands reverted, 200 former slaves, mainly from St. Catherine, came here and established their own community. 10 years later, 18 Negroes signed a mortgage for 200 acres of John Nicholson's land. In 4 years, the thrifty mortgage holders paid $5,000 and received the title in 1882. The community was based upon fishing and farming, with Savannah as the primary market. With changes in fishing technology and more stringent city marketing laws, the economic base and the community withered. The primary monument to this community is the Nicholsonboro Baptist Church, which had been established with the community. The original building still stands today. Our journey now takes us to St. Benedict the Moor Catholic Church. St. Benedict the Moor is the first Black parish in the state of Georgia. It is also known as the Mother Church of Black Catholics. On May 13, 1874, two Benedictines, Reverend Bergier and Reverend Weisel, arrived in Savannah to devote themselves to the spiritual interests of the African American population. In 1875, they constructed and opened the first Catholic school for blacks, a little frame church on the corner of East Broad and Harris Streets. It only took 2 weeks to construct the church. The Franciscan sisters opened St. Benedict the Moor School in 1907 and operated the school until 1969, when a racially integrated Catholic school system was developed in Savannah known as integration. The Franciscan sisters also hold a special place in the history of the parish. They staffed St. Benedict's School from its beginning, around the turn of the century, up until the time of its closure. The school's alumni include Tina Flanor, the former chief of staff to the Vice President Kamala Harris. The sisters also staffed the orphanage established by Mother Matilda Beasley, the first African-American nun in Georgia to belong to a religious order. The current building was constructed in 1945. I quote, "The history of St. Benedict the Moor Catholic Church is a journey of faith, for we have come this far by faith, trusting in the Lord."
Forefathers, our ancestors, who at that time it was difficult for them to worship, but they continue to hold this church together until our own time. And I am so blessed that this church, that I am here at this present time. And I am blessed also that we have a future. We have a future because we have amazing children who will take over from us.
I was ordained a priest for the Diocese of Savannah on May 28, 1988. I was the first Black priest for the diocese in its history when I got ordained. Went to school here in Savannah, started school at St. Benedict the Moor School. I was baptized at St. Benedict the Moor Church. I received my first communion at St. Benedict the Moor Church. I was called to orders at St. Benedict the Moor Church, and I celebrated the first Mass as a priest at St. Benedict the Moor Church.
This church was established in 1874, the oldest Black Catholic church in Georgia. The school, it was closed during the integration, and this school raised up people from all over these United States who studied in this school. And Justice Clarence Thomas was one of them.
Clarence Thomas is years older than I am, but I know Clarence Thomas. We from the same neighborhood. Growing up here in Savannah, there was St. Benedict the Moor on East Broad. There was the Most Pure Heart of Mary, also many people will say St. Mary's, on West 36th Street in the Collar Brownsville community. And there was St. Anthony of Padua on Fell Street in West Savannah. And for a period of time, there was also St. Pius X High School here in Savannah. So there were 3 Black parishes and 4 schools in Savannah at one point. So there was, a presence of the church in the Black community here in Savannah. Mother Matilda Beasley, she started an order of nuns here in Savannah, and they were under the Franciscan community. But she also started an orphanage, which was near St. Benedict Church, where it is today. And she's a testimony to the Black people, and we could say she lived her life for the church. Presently, there are 6 Black Catholics whose cause for canonization has been open. And they are called the Black Catholic, saintly 6. You have Mother Mary Elizabeth Lang. She was the founder of the Oblate Sisters of Providence in Baltimore, Maryland. in 1829, and they are still in existence today. We have Mother Henriette de Lille. She was the foundress of the Sisters of the Holy Family in New Orleans in 1842. There's also Sister Thea Bowman, probably more contemporary. And one of the things that Sister Thea Bowman did was to enrich the church, with the rich Black Catholic culture. She, as along with others, bringing the rich music into the church, bringing that music into the celebration of Mass. Also, there is Julia Greeley. She was a lay woman, and she was instrumental in her community where she resided and making the presence of the church known. And she made a big difference in that community. And then the two gentlemen, or two male, that will complete that six. And one of them is Pierre Toussaint, who was of Haitian descent, and who was brought to this country as a slave in New York City. And as New York City, he worked as a hairdresser to the rich ladies in that area. And he used the money that he made to help his own people. And he supported many charitable causes in the Black community, not only in New York, but also throughout the country. And the final person is Father Augustine Tolton. And being, a Black priest myself, Father Augustine Tolton, we know his story is very inspirational to me and to many other Black Catholic priests. Father Tolton was also born into slavery, and his family crossed the Mississippi over into free land. And he had a desire or vocation to the priesthood. He had a difficult time in this country because no diocese will accept him. No seminary will accept him in this country. Father Tolton studied in Rome, and he was ordained in 1886 in Rome. But we all recognize Father Augustine Tolton as the first known Black Catholic priest in the United States of America. And I think the celebration and the knowing of that history helps the church with evangelization in the Black community, because many people have the perception that the church is only for European people of European descent, not knowing that the church is universal, not knowing of the rich history of the church, not just in our diocese, but throughout the country, throughout the world, we can say today.
Our next stop on this journey takes us to December 28th, 2024, when Chatham County sworn in its first African-American sheriff, Mr. Richard Coleman. In addition to the racial significance of Coleman's appointment at the age of 50, he is also Chatham County's youngest sheriff in more than 3 decades. Chatham County's 47th sheriff was sworn in at the First African Baptist Church of East Savannah, located at 402 Treat Avenue. The church's pews were filled with elected officials and law enforcement professionals from Southeast Georgia, as well as Chatham County community members. Chatham County Superior Court Judge John E. Morse Jr. did the honors of swearing Coleman, who was accompanied by his wife, mother, and father. Sheriff Coleman is a Savannah native and a proud 30-year Georgia certified peace officer. He is a God-fearing leader and the son of 2 esteemed retired Savannah Chatham educators, Coach Roosevelt and Principal Vernell Coleman. Sheriff Coleman is a graduate of Saul C. Johnson High School. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice administration and has a master's degree in public administration. His extensive experience across all levels of law enforcement afforded him the opportunity to be a certified Georgia law enforcement executive administrator, an assistant chief of police, former chief of police, chief of internal affairs, and police operations commander. Sheriff Coleman brings expertise in staffing, budgeting, policy development, outsourcing, resourcing, and community engagement. According to the Sheriff Office website, the office was established in 1732, making it one of the oldest law enforcement agencies in the United States. The office of sheriff was created almost 20 years before slavery was legalized in Georgia in 1751. Mr. Coleman hopes that one day his legacy will recall his service of excellency to the community, which begins now as he plans to evaluate staff, policies, and procedures. This stop on our journey takes us to one of the Savannah, Georgia's unsung trailblazers, Mr. Roger Shank. At the age of 28 years old, Mr. Shank blazed his own trail in Savannah's local transit system. He did something that no man in the city of Savannah or the state of Georgia had done. Roger Shank is the first black bus driver and the first African American director of transportation in Savannah, Georgia. Mr. Roger Shank, a man who made significant progress in the South during segregation. Roger Shank was the first black bus driver and the first American director of transportation for Savannah Transit Authority, now known as CAT, Chatham Area Transit Authority. He started by cutting the bus company's grass, washing the buses, and changing the tires. Instead of focusing on segregation, he decided to go and obtain a job for the bus company. His determination and perseverance helped him reach the highest rank. Come, go with me as we share Mr. Roger Shank's journey.
The year was 1961. A then 28-year-old Roger Shank did something no black man in the city or state of Georgia had ever done. He moved to the front of the bus to take his seat behind the wheel for the Savannah Transit Authority, now CAT, a bold move in the segregated South.
During that time, there were marches in the street every night. People would go down to City Hall. They would do that. They would be, gassed or sprayed with water. And I remember that I was not working and I felt more free to demonstrate. And along with his sister, who was jailed for 3 weeks. We couldn't get her out of jail because nobody could stand the bond. It was so high, but Roger didn't participate because he knew better.
3 years prior, he'd married the love of his life, Mary, and they were expecting their first and only child. He needed to make money to support his growing family.
It wasn't pleasant. As you know, they had these colored assignments for all these facilities. And once I got into the facilities, training on the bus drivers, I wasn't allowed in the operator's room. I had to wait toward the maintenance department before we would go to the barn to select the bus.
And though racism reared its ugly head more often than not, Shank remained calm and persevered.
He would go over to the bus company, cut the grass, wash the buses, change the tires. He was not allowed to use the facilities in the main building. He had to use the ones where the maintenance folk were. And he did that for a good at least 2 months. And then he came home one day and said he was going to get a uniform.
The move attracted eyes across the country. This picture was published in the Pittsburgh Carrier on Shank's first day. His initial route was the Liberty Parkway line, a then newly developed black neighborhood. Other routes would follow, but not everyone was on board.
The operators at that time didn't accept it. They would get sick, reports, right in that room. They reported to work and get sick. And they had some things to say, but I just kept quiet and did what I was supposed to do.
He didn't have the same liberties as his colleagues, and he was even confronted by an angry passenger.
I had one case of on the number 11 Abercorn where one passenger approached and said, you got a white man's job. And I didn't answer. So he cussed, and I pulled over at the Georgia Infirmary and told him, sir, you can't curse on the bus, please. I don't care what you call me, but just don't delay this. And he kept going, so I said, you have to get off the bus. And I did, and he reported me.
Soft-spoken by nature, his actions proved louder than words. With support from his family and the black community, Shank worked his way up the ladder. Eventually, Shank was promoted to night relief supervisor and day and night shift dispatcher. Before long, he was training other black bus operators and later the first women to do the same, ultimately attaining the title of assistant superintendent. In 1991, he became the first African-American director of transportation.
Going through the ranks, it was all muscle to me, and it just seemed like I didn't have the training in some of it, and it was to do a better job than the guys who was in front of me in those ranks as I came up.
Shank retired from the transit system in 1992 after 30 years with little to no recognition for his pioneering accomplishments. Now at age 90, he and his wife continue to enjoy retirement together. So the next time a cat bus passes by, think of Roger Shank and thank him for the road he traveled to pave the way.
I've been through it all, but I've enjoyed it. I don't have any gripes. I had a good career, and I'm happy for the rest of those who come behind me.
Mr. and Mrs. Shank, I am honored to have had this opportunity to interview you. Your story is a beacon of inspiration and a vivid reminder of the strength that resides within us. Thank you for sharing your journey that was highlighted on WSAV television. It truly touches the heart. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me, celebrating some of Savannah, Georgia's unsung Black history. Until next time, goodbye.